Generally, I don't want to be negative. It's not really what I'm interested in doing with this channel. There are a lot of channels out there that are really good at negative reviews and really tearing up stuff and being down on our current wave of pop culture. And it's understandable because our current crop of pop culture is not very good, and I'm on their side on this. But I want to try to be positive and bring up cool stuff for people to enjoy that they may or may not know about. But there are some things that I really want to be negative about, and Rodgers and Hammerstein is one of those things. Up front, as songwriters, Rodgers and Hammerstein are two of the greatest ever. They deserve to be listed among some of the greats, like George and Ira Gershwin and Irving Berlin and Carole King and Paul McCartney. Their songs are usually infectious little earworms that just burrow their way into your brain and will not leave you, no matter how much you want them to. As songwriters, they are great. Oklahoma was actually the first album to ever be certified gold. For some reason, I learned that in a math book. I don't know why it was listed there. But I wish they had stayed just songwriters, because as musical writers, they are terrible. Yeah, you probably thought I was just going after Oklahoma. No, this is going to be the first in a series where I am going after their entire career. Yes, entire career. They can write great songs, but the scripts that are attached to the songs are boring if you're lucky. And the thing that's weird is they didn't even really write most of their scripts. They just have no idea what a good one is. I will give them a little bit of slack on their song Incorporation, because it wasn't really until the 1980s that Howard Ashman cracked the code on the best times to put a song inside of a musical, which he figured out was moments of intense emotionality where the characters really couldn't do anything to express themselves but sing. Also, it works really well for the musical's introduction and ending. He was also the first one to figure out to start playing the music for the song under the dialogue before the song actually starts. It sounds like a weird thing, but that did not happen until it was either Little Mermaid or Little Shop of Horrors. And it seems like a really obvious thing to do, so I'm not sure how it took that long to become a thing. And doing that makes the jump into the musical portion a lot less jarring, and I prefer it. And by contrast, R&H just kind of put songs inside of moments that they decided to write songs for. Where I give them no slack is that the songs usually do absolutely nothing to move the plot forward and rarely reveal anything about the characters. I can fault them for that, because the evolution of their particular chosen art form is, first we had operas like The Ring Cycle or The Magic Flute, and then we had operettas like The Pirates of Penzance or The Mikado, and then we had the modern musical. Using songs to tell the story is part of the foundation of what they're doing. What were you doing with your lives, guys, besides making more money than I will probably ever see? So we start with our hero, Curly. Curly is riding in his horse and singing our opening song, Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. Now, Wicked starts off introducing us to the land of Oz. Young Frankenstein shows us the town that has been plagued by monsters. Lion King introduces us to Africa, as well as the movie's theme of the circle of life. Oklahoma tells us that today is sunny, while watching Pink Shirt ride past corn for 40 freaking seconds. Did they forget to ask the choreographer to do this one? Also, I guess it kind of reveals that there are farms nearby, which is important information. Dude can sing, though.
Everything's going my way.
Next, we meet Aunt Eller and Lori. I'll throw the movie a bone that this first scene is actually decent, and this is a pretty good burn.
Thought you were somebody.
I can always appreciate a good burn. Lori and Curly both like each other, but neither will admit that they like each other, so they tease each other, like a playground does. Curly scores a point by getting her to admit that she'd go to a box social that evening, whatever that is, if he takes her in a super fancy surrey, which is described in another very catchy song. Once he tells her that he made it up, she gets mad at him because she admitted that she'd be willing to go out with him. Instead, she agrees to go out with her farmhand, Judd Fry, even though she doesn't actually like him because she knows it'll make Curly jealous. Whoa, purple! Now we meet Will, who has come back to town after earning the money that his girlfriend's father said that he needs to marry her. That's really all that we learn in this scene before it's interrupted by a commercial for Kansas City, the disc golf capital of the world, if you didn't know. If this was a musical that took place in Kansas City, this would be a pretty good intro song. But it's not. So it isn't. I really hope that this is this dude's bedroom noise. Next, we meet Will's aforementioned girlfriend, Ado Annie. I have to admit, I unapologetically love Annie. She's hilarious, and I think that seeing this performance may have been one of the most formative moments of Joan Cusack's life.
I like it so much when a fella talks pretty to me, I get all shaky from horn to hoof.
While Will was gone, she started spending time with the Persian peddler Ali and forgot that Will was coming home today. And she thinks that she might like Ali more and want to marry him instead of Will. Another catchy song that does actually tell us something about the character. But good gosh, who directed this crap? You couldn't think of anything else for her to do? Will tells her that he's ready to marry her because he earned the $50 that he had to. But then he immediately spent all of it on presents for her, so he doesn't have the money anymore. Now, a bunch of townsfolk show up at Laurie and Aunt Eller's farm, including Gertie, who is this movie's MVP because she probably has the funniest laugh ever recorded. How long did this actress work on that? Whoa, the parasols are out today. That's not a criticism, I just noticed. Anyway, Gertie's flirting with Curly because she likes him, so Curly flirts back to make Laurie jealous. Laurie sings about how she doesn't care, and it's real funny how risque this scene would have been like 30 years before this movie came out. Also, look at how these women are looking at Laurie. Was every extra in this scene a lesbian? My sister is a huge fan of this movie, and if she ever watches this video, which I doubt that she will, it's probably about now that she'll want to stab me. Okay, this is a dang good scene, and as the father of one of the most beautiful little girls God has ever blessed the world with, I love Annie's dad.
Well, shut your face, or I'll fill your behinds full of buckshot. You'll be walking around like a duck the rest of your life.
So this OG, who hates Will and clearly said that he could marry Annie if he earned the money, thinking that he could never possibly do so, takes the fact that she likes Ali as an opportunity to get rid of Will by letting her marry Ali. Ali doesn't want to, but he's scared of Annie's dad, so he agrees to it. Laurie picks a fight with Gertie because Curly dragged her into the middle of this. Curly and Laurie sing what's honestly a clever song, but, okay, it doesn't work because musically it's a very climactic song, which kind of signals a resolution to the relationship, but there isn't one here. They go right back to where they started. It could be considered a misdirect, but to quote Wagner, the actors may lie, but the orchestra never does. So musically, this song should have happened way later in the movie after they've both admitted that they loved each other. But it isn't, and so it feels out of place. In fact, before I rewatched it, I actually remembered it happening later. Those are my problems with it musically. Lyrically, it doesn't work because it's really a let's be friends song, and neither character wants that or is even pushing for it, so it's dishonest. He even asks her out again immediately after the song is over. It's catchy, and lyrically it's a very clever song, but it's wrong for the situation. Like I said, Curly asks her out again, and she says no because she's going to the social with Judd. Curly then goes to Judd's house and talks to him about how easy it would be for Judd to kill himself, and that he'd be better off dead. Even socially awkward Judd is like, what the crap are you on about? And man, Curly is picturing it here. Just as a reminder, this is our hero. I do have to highlight this line.
It's a shame that he won't keep, but it's summer and we're running out of ice.
Because I love a good dark joke. I will admit that Judd does get creepy at this point, but a dude did just tell him he should kill himself. He tells a story about a nearby farmhand that burned the family he worked for alive inside of their own barn. This is used to show that Judd has evil in him, but not to present day argument here, but anybody who has ever been in a relationship with a murder podcast fan is used to this kind of thing just being randomly brought up and thoroughly discussed. So now Judd asks Ali if he has a knife that he can use on Curly. There is a lot of purple in this movie. Laurie can't decide who she should go out with, and Ali gave her a smelling salt that he says will show her the right thing to do in a dream. She tries it, and has a dream where most of the characters are played by different actors for some reason. As a medley, it's pretty well composed, but man, this is trippy. And freaking long. The veil came down. What are they still staring at? Where do I get lanterns that burn like that? Chicken dance! Holy crap, are they supposed to be dead? I've had to do this in workouts, and it's miserable. Oh, now we're in The Shining. And Judd turns into the Terminator. How big was that fan? This is the kind of thing Danny Kaye warned us about.
Through the air they keep flying like a duck that is dying. Instead of dance, it's choreography.
And Judd kills Curly. Nice framing, though. 13 minutes and 45 seconds? Are you freaking kidding me? I blame an American in Paris. So she wakes up scared of Judd. While riding to the social, Judd tells her that he loves her, and it first started when he was sick, and she took care of him and showed him more kindness than anyone else ever had. After spilling his guts, he understandably tries to kiss her. That's usually the right time to act. I think he tries to kiss her, at least. It kind of looks like an aggressive hug. But Laurie had a bad dream, so she nearly gets them killed. He hops off there. Is that a Surrey? I don't know the finer points of horse-drawn vehicles. And then after he calms the horses, she rides off, leaving him in the middle of nowhere. At this point, this story has so many dadgum issues. Let's start with the most egregious. The B story is way more interesting than the main story. The main story is just a badly done love triangle. The B story, on the other hand, I think this might be the only place I've ever seen it. Boy and girl love each other and want to get married. Father hates boy, but he's too smart to just tell girl that she can't see boy. That wouldn't work. So instead, he pulls a Greek mythology and tells boy that if he earns a specific amount of money that he doesn't think he can possibly get, then he can marry girl. He goes off to do it because he does love her, but meanwhile, she starts talking to another guy. Impossibly, he actually earns the money, but he's so excited about it that he blows all of it on presents for the girl, which gives the dad an out to say he doesn't have the money. And then father gets girl engaged to other guy, even though other guy doesn't actually want to marry her. That is interesting and unique. Someone needs to make a movie where that is the main plot. And if they have, tell me about it, because I don't know about it. Meanwhile, the main plot is two people like each other and neither of them wants to be the first one to admit it. As an outline, that's it. By itself, that's boring, but it gets worse when you add in the details. On top of our two leads, we also have Judd and Gertie, who both like our leads for some reason. In order to get the other character to admit that they like them, our two leads lead these two people on with absolutely no thought for their feelings. Laurie's response to this is to get jealous and then try and beat up Gertie. Curly's response is to try to convince Judd to off himself and then threaten him with a gun. Could we really fault Judge if he thinks that Curly is unhinged? I mean, his name is Curly. But meanwhile, the girl that Judd likes treats him like garbage because of a dream. In full honesty, he does have porn in his shack, I guess? But Will bought some too, and we like Will. He does also briefly look into Laurie's window. Very briefly. And I do not condone that kind of behavior, but he is a very lonely person who no one likes because of his lack of social skills. He tells Laurie that she better not be thinking about going to the social with anyone else, but he's excited that she asked him, and he knows that Curly is very much so trying to weasel his way in there. So our leads are terrible people. There's a more interesting story happening in the background, and all I can think of is how dadgum catchy Many a New Man is. So now we're finally at the much ballyhooed social. Is that the set of the Seven Brides barn raising? Who the crap is this guy? He looks like Al Franken's grandfather. And the Joker predates this movie, so who approved that costume? Was there some kind of a purple quota that had to be filled for this movie? Well, I guess we should give him a solo. That tells us absolutely nothing about his personality the first time we see him. A fight breaks out between the cowboys and the farmers, presumably because R&H wanted to write a song about it. In rewatching this, I noticed that Will is holding a corset for no defined reason, and I want to know what was cut. Will finds out about Annie's engagement, so he finds Ali and threatens to kill him like Curly did Judd. Of course, there's the slightly different context that Will says that he'll do it if he hears even a whisper that Ali is not the greatest husband in the world to Annie. Other than that, they're exactly the same. Ali, seeing that Will really does love Annie, sees an out and starts buying all of the things that Will bought for Annie, and soon Will has his $50 again. This is a great scene. There's a pattern here. All of the best scenes involve Will and Annie. I told you this should have been the main story. Judd makes it to the party covered in sweat and dirt because Laurie abandoned him and he had to walk. And now we're into a picnic basket auction, like in that one episode of Gilmore Girls. The ladies have made secret picnic baskets and men bid on them based on the contents. The basket they win turns into a picnic date. Joker isn't even heading the auction? Why is he? Annie and Lori's baskets are outed. Will, because he's way bigger on gestures than common sense, bids all of his $50 on Annie's, forgetting that means he won't have that money anymore. Ali sees his freedom slipping away, so he bids all of Will's money plus one. I have to point out that with an inflation adjustment, it's roughly $1,600. I am so much more invested in this story than Curly and What's-Her-Face. Side note, strictly opinion. I understand historical accuracy and the amount of research that it takes for the dialogue to convey the correct amount of money relative to the time period that a movie takes place is not a light amount of work. But I think that inflation calculations should be done in the dialogue so that the amount of money hits the audience the same way that it does the characters. Historical accuracy is one thing and important, but I feel like for the actual storytelling, impact is more important. Just my 2 cents. Curly and Judd get into a bidding war over Lori's basket, and Curly has to start selling his stuff in order to outbid Judd. I know what the writer was going for with this scene, and it's a good idea. You see, Curly is a cowboy. He rides free on the open range, and he doesn't settle anywhere. Think like a sailor who loves the sea, but with tumbleweeds. One of Lori's hesitancies was, would Curly be willing to give up his freedom in order to settle down with her, or did he just want her to be his woman for that particular area of the country? Then, in order to bid for her basket, he sells his saddle, horse, and gun, all of which he needs on the open range, thereby displaying his willingness to give all of that up for her. That is a great idea and a sign of good storytelling. The problem is twofold. One, we never see that being Lori's problem. It's Annie's father's problem, but it's not hers. She was raised by Aunt Eller, the farmer who is the most accepting of the local cowboys, and she's one of the only cast members that wasn't involved in the farmer and the cowman song/fight. So we really have no indication at all that this is a hang-up for her being with Curly. Second, this is seen as a competition between Judd and Curly, and frankly, I don't like Curly very much at this point. Judd is being painted as a mean bully here because he won't ease off the bidding even after Curly decides to sell his beloved horse Blue. That part does hurt me a little too. I am not completely dead inside. But Curly tried to convince Judd to unalive himself, and Lori abandoned him presumably over a mile away. I think that he has a slight right to be childish against these monsters. Third, let's acknowledge the fact that Judd just has the value of everything Curly owns. He's much better with money than him, apparently. But Lori hates him because someone who kind of looks like her saw him kill someone who kind of looks like Curly. And Sean Connery. Also, I think the order of him selling his stuff should have been saddle, gun, horse instead of saddle, horse, gun, just because the horse is a more personal thing to give up. That's also worth a lot more. Curly finally wins, and Judd tries to kill him with a hidden knife. I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying that I get it. Will and Annie have another great song together. This is the best storyline. And how is this not Joan Cusack's mom?
And dig myself a hole where I can hide.
Judd storms off. Curly and Lori get together. Yay, I guess. Though I do have to point out, ladies, if you come to us like this when you're scared, we feel like, well, insert your man's superhero of choice here. I'm partial to Batman. Curly's face is every man's face in this situation.
Now look, you quit your wood, I'll spank you.
I got erotic kind of quick.
How about marrying me?
And it makes him want to marry her. Oh, my stars and garters. I need pearls to grab. They're going to have a lot of kids. Seriously, this is the best thing they've had since the beginning. If this was how they started their relationship, I would probably be more on board with it. Huh, he actually looks like Hugh Jackman here. Now we come to... This is absolutely baffling, and how it made it past a first draft, I have no idea. This movie is over 2 hours long. The opening is the beginning of a day. Then we follow these characters through that day up to the dance that night. It's just following a group of characters through a very eventful day in their lives. Up till now, this movie has run on the logic of a presumed linear timeline. There have been no jarring jumps, and it actually feels kind of like a full day. Now, pulling that off takes a lot of work as far as your story outline goes. But now, with 16 minutes left, we suddenly throw all of that aside and cut to quote the wiki article, several weeks later. Lori and Curly get married, and the movie turns into a brief and not particularly convincing tourism commercial for Oklahoma. Annie and Will are already married, I think. Ali married Gertie, which is great because we get to hear her laugh again. Then Judd suddenly becomes a raging psychopath and tries to kill Curly and Lori. During this attempted murder, Curly jumps on Judd, and Judd is stabbed by his own knife. Why? None of this was necessary. We didn't need to see Lori and Curly's wedding. Judd was beaten, they were together, the end. And now we're suddenly dealing with Judd becoming a completely different person and tacking on an extra 16 minutes for no reason. And this isn't even the worst time that R&H did that. Anyway, because of Judd's death, now there has to be a trial for Curly before he and Lori can go on their honeymoon. And do you know what that means? It means that with 6 minutes left, we have our second time jump to the next day. About 2 hours of this movie is one single day, and then the last 16 minutes are 2 separate days. Absolute insanity.
What, you're the judge, ain't you, Andrew?
And his dad is a judge, too. That man is a boss. Curly is found not guilty, but frankly, we've already seen that he's willing to kill Judd, and there might be a deleted scene where Curly somehow convinced Judd to do what he did. It's a possibility with what has been established about his character so far. That's all I'm saying. And we're done. This story is awful. The A story, I mean. Will and Annie are fantastic, and how their story has not been remade in the last 68 years is a blight on Hollywood. And the characters aren't that likable, and the story is poorly planned, and dadgummit, Oklahoma is stuck in my head now, and I'm mad about it. I know that these complaints are pretty in the weeds as far as analysis goes, but my larger point is that if you were to take out the catchy songs, this is a movie that no one would remember. But with them, it's considered to be one of the great movies ever made. And I don't think it deserves that accreditation. This is the first in the series about Rodgers and Hammerstein. If you thought that I was a little salty inside of this video and you enjoyed that, you are going to want to watch the next one. If this ticked you off, oh, there's one coming that's going to make you real mad. If one popped into your head right now and you thought, surely he won't go after that one, you're wrong, and I will. If you subscribe, you'll see me next time. Bye.